So that's the tyre. Now let's get it on to my Golf. Hello guys, and welcome back to the VolksWizard channel. Today you join me in my Mk8 Golf GTI Clubsport on my commute, and this is going to be the last journey this car will ever do on the Racing Line R360 wheels and Goodyear Eagle F1 asymmetric 5 tyres, which have looked after me for nearly all of the 13,000 miles this car has now covered. And you can support the channel by buying them off me, so stay tuned to find out how. Now, normally by this time of year I'd have fitted some winter tyres because I live quite rurally and you just want to make sure you can get home whatever the weather, but I haven't been able to because they're fitted to my 17-inch Dijon wheels, which went on my Golf GTI TCR just fine, but they won't fit the Clubsport because it requires 18s to clear the bigger brakes. So I thought it'd be a good time to do what I promised I'd do last year when I borrowed Goodyear's Mk8 Golf demo car fitted with their very impressive Vector 4 Seasons Gen 3 all-season tyres and get a set for myself. Now I know what you're thinking, it's late February, so why bother? But just a few days ago, Storm Eunice brought snow to many parts of the UK, and I'm pretty sure that's not the last we're going to get this year. But the main reason I'm fitting them now is because they are all season tyres. They're designed to be used all year round, and whilst they performed amazingly well in the cold and wet last year, I'm really curious to see how they're going to perform in the warmer, drier conditions we're going to get in the UK as we go into spring over the next few weeks. So let's get to work and get them fitted. Okay, before we get the old wheels and tyres off my Golf, it's probably a good time to have a look at the new ones. Now, normally I do some sort of unveiling ceremony, but it's really not worth the effort doing that today because you've seen them before. They are, of course, the standard 18-inch Richmond wheels that the car came on when it was new. They're standard on the 245 GTI and the Clubsport, and they're standard to make you want to upgrade, no doubt, to one of the nicer looking factory options. But I'll put up with them today because at least initially they're going to be covered in winter muck and I won't have to look at them. So let's have a look at the tyres. You can see they look very different to a normal tyre. That's because these are all season tyres. They're the Goodyear Vector 4 Seasons Gen 3, so the third version of Goodyear's all-season tyre. With the 225/40/18 versus 235/35/19, so we've got a little bit smaller footprint and we've got a bit more sidewall for a bit more compliance, which is always good on a stiffly sprung car like this non-DCC Clubsport. What else is worth pointing out is that we've got, as well as the mud and snow symbol there, we've got the 3-peak mountain snowflake symbol, which means this tyre is fully approved for winter use. Say you go to Germany and it's winter tyre season, you can drive legally on this tyre then, but you can also use it quite happily all year round. So it really is having your cake and eating it, or at least in theory. We'll find out as we get to know the tyre as spring develops in a few weeks. It's also worth looking at the EU tyre label, which was recently simplified. So we've just got 5 categories now instead of 7. We've got rolling resistance, we've got wet performance, and we've got noise. For noise, this is 1 decibel louder at 72 than the asymmetric 5, but that's comparing the 225/40/18 with the 225/40/18. The ones on there are a bit bigger, so I reckon noise levels will actually be quite similar. I'm not expecting this to be any louder, and this is quite a quiet tyre. When it comes to rolling resistance, this is a bit better than the asymmetric 5. It's a C versus a D. Rather interestingly though, the wet performance is a B on these all-season tyres, but it's an A on the asymmetric 5, which might sound a bit strange. You'd surely expect an all-season tyre to be better in the wet, but the reason for that is that all that tests on the EU tyre label is wet braking in a straight line, so just ramming the brakes on in the wet, which I never ever do. What's more important to me is how well the car resists aquaplaning and how well it goes around corners in the wet, and that's not actually covered by that rating. I'm pretty confident these will be much better than those, and those are already brilliant. Speaking of aquaplaning, on these all-season tyres, the grooves evolve as the tyre wears down to maintain the amount of water dispersal, so they won't just drop off as the tyre goes below a certain amount of mils. That's really impressive. Also, they've got stronger centre blocks and shoulder blocks, which helps dry handling, so you get less deformation under high load manoeuvres, so either hard cornering or hard braking. And if you watched my video from last year, when I drove on these tyres, these exact tyres, in snow, which amazingly happened when I had the Goodyear test car for a week in the UK, they're also very, very good in snow. That's good. There are loads of sipes here that draw the snow into the tyre, and it's better to drive on a tyre covered in snow than on rubber, because snow grips snow better than rubber. So just watch that video. I don't even need to test that, because that video was a really good test of these tyres in snow, and they were amazing. Okay, so that's the tyre. Now let's get it on to my Golf. Okay, well, doesn't it look like a very different car now, and not altogether a better one? But what is better is its ability to deal with whatever the weather can throw at it: winter, summer, autumn, spring. They say in the UK you can have 4 seasons in one day, and that's particularly true as we go sort of into spring towards summer. You could have the gritters out in April, but you could have 20 degrees later that day. It is that variable here, so it's the perfect time to get to know these tyres. Obviously I need to run them in, and we'll do that, and then we'll have a drive. But before we do that, let's have a look and see how the old Goodyear Eagle F1 asymmetric 5s have worn. So I've got my little gauge here, set that to 0. So what we've got at the top is the back tyre, which was swapped over when these wheels went on, which was in about September. So they're roughly done the same sort of service on the front or back of the car, so they should be quite evenly worn. Let's have a look. So the car's done 12,800 miles now, and apart from the 2 track days, which would have been a few hundred miles, it's been on these tyres in the first 1,000 miles. So let's say, for argument's sake, 11,500 miles have been done on these tyres. So let's see how much we've got left. We'll just use the same bit of tyre on all of them. So that's 5.19 from an 8mm approximate start. 5.37, and then 5.99 from nearly 6. Should we just do that again? 5.88. I guess it depends exactly where you put the pin bit. 6.12 and 6 there. So that is amazing, and it's not like they're not a very good tyre that's really hard and that's why it doesn't wear out. They have been brilliant. And what's a little different in this video is you can actually buy these wheels and tyres. So the Racing Line R360s have been on the car for about 4 or 5 months, and I think brand new they are £1,300 including VAT. You can buy all these with these tyres that have still got loads of life left, never been repaired, no damage to them. Same with the wheels, they're all perfect. You can buy them for £1,300 including VAT. I'm VAT registered, so I have to include that. I'm not offering delivery. You'd have to come here to collect, which is, the postcode is B475BN, do that by appointment, and these wheels can be yours. So yeah, get in touch if you want to do that. You will be supporting the channel as well, which as the months go on in towards spring and summer, you'll realise the channel will need supporting. There's a lot going on I can't actually tell you about just yet. But yeah, so let's get in the car, do a few miles and see how it drives on these brand new Goodyear Vector 4 seasons Gen 3 all-season tyres. It's been 5 days and 500 miles since the tyre swap, and I think it's fair to say they're nicely run in now, but we're not going to do the full review just yet. As I said earlier, we need to drive them in much warmer conditions, which hopefully will come over the next few weeks, but there's still lots to talk about today. Starting off with noise, the good news is they are no louder than the F1 asymmetric 5s I've just taken off, and that's a particularly quiet tyre, so that's really good news. I've driven winter tyres in the past that sound like you've got 4 shot wheel bearings and you couldn't live with that just for a winter, let alone all year round, but no, these are a very, very hushed and refined tyre. Next up, let's talk about rolling resistance. This affects the MPG of your car. Now, on my commute, which is a set distance I do every day, generally I get into the mid to high 30s. Occasionally I go into the 40s. With these tyres over the last few days, the norm has been to go over 40, and it's very rare for me to drop into the 30s. Temperatures stayed pretty much the same at sort of 5 to 10 degrees centigrade, so it's not that. So yeah, there is a feeling that your car will be better on fuel on these tyres, and that's very useful in a week where fuel has hit record highs. Next up, let's talk about the ride quality. Well, the Clubsport is quite a firm car. Even with DCC, it doesn't really make an awful lot of difference. So when I run 19s and the factory 41 psi, it is a little bit too jarring, so I tend to run about 38 psi. These wheels and tyres with 41 psi, perfectly fine. So it's only a subtle change. Maybe the sidewall's a little bit softer, but it's the difference between it being annoying and not being annoying, which for me is pretty good, although they do look pretty dreadful, but more on that in a bit. Next up, handling. Okay, now it's not really going to be the best tyre when conditions warm up, but in these conditions you can tell that it still feels quite a soft tyre, even at sort of below 7 degrees, which is where normal tyres drop off. What's very interesting is when you turn in and get some weight into the sidewall, you can feel it flexing, and that gives you a nice bit of communication with the tyre, what it's doing. But more interestingly, the rear axle seems more apparent now. It's just the rear axle sort of leaning into the turn a bit more. It's not sliding, but the sidewall's so flexible that the tyre's moving, let's say, a few mil out, and that just makes the car feel a lot more agile and neutral. So yeah, so far so good, I'm sure, especially when conditions warm up. A normal summer tyre will run rings around it, but in these conditions it feels nice, it feels fun. You know, even though ultimate grip is probably less, the way that it communicates and feels enjoyable now is distinctly different to the F1 asymmetric 5 at these sort of temperatures, which feels quite rigid. I can't remember what it felt like in the summer. I'm sure it wasn't like that. So yeah, there's definitely gains to be had for driver enjoyment in these conditions on these tyres. Now the big caveat is that I haven't swapped the same size tyres. I've gone down one size, and that means that some of these gains, say MPG, are because the tyres are a little bit narrow. It's 225 instead of a 235. Ride comfort's a little bit better because we've got more sidewall. We've got a 40 profile instead of 35. So don't take this as gospel relating to the change of tyres, but what it does suggest, and it does remind me how good this car drove when I bought it and ran it on 18s for the first month. It was really, really nice. So I am thinking now it's time to ditch the 19s for road use and get some slightly wider, slightly more offset 18s with a better looking design than the Richmond. So if you've got any ideas, let me know via the comments. I'll still keep 19s for track use. So anyway guys, thank you as ever for watching this volkswizard video. If you've enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up, please do comment, please do share, and please subscribe, because we're so close to 40k, and that would be a very important landmark for the channel. I know I haven't posted an awful lot recently, but over the next few months, as we get a bit more daylight and a bit better weather, there'll be a lot of good videos coming very soon, including a 1-year birthday update of living with my Clubsport. So that should be really good. Look forward to sharing that with you, and yeah, see you very soon.